Have you ever tried putting salt in your shoes? It seems like a very strange question, but putting salt in your shoes is nothing more than an ancient Buddhist practice. Salt, in addition to being known and appreciated in the kitchen for flavoring foods, is also a precious ally in domestic cleaning as it helps to clean and cleanse. Salt, in addition to being known and appreciated in the kitchen for flavoring foods, is also a precious ally in domestic cleaning as it helps to clean and cleanse. Furthermore, in the form of a saline solution, it also acts as a disinfectant for wounds and abrasions. Not to mention the numerous uses in the cosmetics fields, such as exfoliating scrubs or bath salt. And we can continue with these examples forever, but that's not what we want to talk to you about today. What few know, in fact, is the precious use that Buddhists have made of it for centuries, putting it in their shoes, a practice that takes on an important meaning both on a medical and spiritual level. But what is it? You can find out in the story we are about to tell you, where you will learn about the 5 main reasons why you too should start putting salt in your shoes. So, stay with us until the end because what you will discover at the end of this video will impact you deeply, probably to the point of leaving you speechless. But above all, it will teach you an important lesson that you can learn from. Before continuing, if you haven't already done so, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. In this way, you will stay updated on all our new contents which are designed and created to help you cultivate your spiritual and inner growth. We are in the heart of a valley. Imagine it surrounded by the mystical atmosphere of the Japanese mountains. Here stands an ancient Buddhist monastery where, for centuries, wisdom has been preserved and offered refuge to all those seeking inner peace. Here, where time seems to have stopped, the elderly monk Makoto, a great wise guardian of Buddhist traditions and the incredible history of Oriental medicine, had found his home. It's a sunny morning. The rays filtered through the branches of the trees and there was an air of peace. Makoto, as always happened, called his disciples into the monastery cloister to begin one of his lessons. He invited them to sit in a circle around him. The silence was deep, and they were all waiting for his precious words. He looked at them with a serene expression before he began to speak in a warm, reassuring voice. You must imagine life as a path to travel, and every step taken as a journey from which to learn, a journey that inevitably leads us to knowledge of ourselves and the universe that surrounds us. The journey is long and tiring, but it is necessary. There are no shortcuts. It cannot be done otherwise. It is fundamental because it teaches us that in our earthly experience, we must be ready to face the challenges that are placed before us. The first words of this Buddhist story told by the sage enraptured the disciples, and at the exact moment in which Master Makoto spoke about the ancient custom of putting salt in shoes, they were amazed to listen to this very mysterious tradition. It is a practice, continued Makoto, that has its roots in the past, in the times of our ancestors when they still lived in the wild lands. Salt, at that time, was a precious commodity symbol of purity and protection. The senior monk took a moment to pause. He wanted to make his brothers reflect and wait until what was said could settle in their minds. Only when the time was right did he continue. I would now like to explain to you the 5 main reasons why the practice of putting salt in your shoes has become so important and meaningful within our spiritual path and for our general well-being. Let's start with the first, said the wise monk. Salt has always been known for its extraordinary power to absorb humidity. Likewise, Buddha was able to absorb the suffering of the world. When we put salt in our shoes, therefore, it is as if we make our steps lighter and more agile. A true metaphor of the steps that we must constantly take on the path of our spirituality. You should know that in Buddhist practice, humidity is often associated with the sense of heaviness left by the worries and sufferings that normally become part of our lives and that we very often tend to carry with us. We can compare them to water. If there is too much of it and we find ourselves with wet shoes, we will feel slowed down and weighed down. Likewise, fears and tensions can slow down our progress on the path of inner growth. The salt in the shoes represents, therefore, the desire to free ourselves from a burden, to let go of what worries us and everything that lowers our energy, but at the same time, the will and desire to maintain lightness of spirit. As moisture is absorbed, so too are worries absorbed, allowing steps to be more fluid and us to regain mental well-being and emotional balance more quickly. Makoto wanted to tell his disciples a story that strengthened what had already been said, and that could leave an impression on them with this first fundamental reason, as simple as it was not obvious. The story was about an old fisherman who found himself facing a storm. The man had managed to save his boat from breaking thanks to a pack of salt that he had available and which had managed to absorb the water. Now let's talk about the second reason why you should put salt in your shoes. The answer lies in its purifying power. Salt incorporates impurities and purifies our way, freeing it from harmful influences and obstacles to our personal growth. Putting salt in our shoes protects our mind and our spirit from the outside world, from the temptations and deceptions that we face every day, and which can undermine our inner growth. Also, to explain and make his disciples understand this point better, Makoto wanted to tell the story of a traveler who, during his journey, found himself having to cross a river. This was infested with evil spirits, and thanks to the salt he had put in his shoes, he managed to cross the river without suffering any harm because he was protecting his mind and spirit from negative influences. The sage Makoto continued, "The third reason is that salt is important for maintaining balance. It helps us to root ourselves to the earth and, like trees, to remain anchored when we are hit by storms. Just as the mountains surrounding the monastery are not affected by the attacks of the storms that hit them, we too must maintain our spirituality and our inner stability in the face of life's challenges." Putting salt in your shoes also wants to symbolize this balance. It wants to be an anchor for every single step we take on the path of life, preventing us from falling and hurting ourselves. It is necessary to do a spiritual search so that we can feel more solid and rooted with the earth, so as not to forget the deep connection we have with it. We are superficial if we think that this only concerns the body. Equally involved are the mind and the spirit, fundamental components in our inner growth to find the right balance between the different dimensions of our existence. Work and rest, action and planning, good and evil, happiness and disappointment. We cannot fully experience these feelings and moments if we do not also experience their opposite. To practice the right, we must have experienced the wrong. If we manage to maintain this balance, the challenges that life offers us will no longer have secrets, and the path towards our spiritual search will be smoother and will be lived with serenity and determination. We must not be influenced by ups and downs. It is normal that they exist. What we need to do is practice and live wisely. The disciples began to understand why salt had taken on all this importance in tradition. Makoto, once again, wanted to make this teaching clearer, and this time chose to use as an example the story of a young monk who was meditating on the bank of a stormy mountain stream. This monk had found the perfect balance thanks to the salt he had brought with him. Makoto went on to explain the fourth reason. Salt has healing properties and has always been used in Oriental medicine, where it was considered a natural remedy to relieve pain and tension of various kinds. Putting salt in your shoes in this regard can make a great contribution to alleviating various types of physical ailments, but also mental ones that can pose obstacles along our spiritual path. Here too, the monk wanted to share a story. This one was about a farmer who was in great pain caused by a wound he had sustained under his foot. Makoto then continued with the fifth reason. Putting salt in your shoes is a gesture of gratitude. Salt is a precious gift from the earth and must be used with awareness, remembering to be grateful for everything that life offers us. The disciples continued to listen to those words, grasping their full meaning, but Makoto was not yet finished with his teachings. My dears, there is a reason linked to this practice that I wanted to leave for last precisely because of its importance. Putting salt in your shoes represents a rite of passage. This connects us to our past generations and all those people. None of the disciples had thought of it, so they were speechless as they finally understood the depth of this seemingly simple gesture. For Makoto, salt in shoes was not just an ancient practice, but a connection with humanity and all the lives that have passed through it.